Welcome to the Apocalypse Dome, everybody! 1 month ago, I sent out a call to my awesome subscribers to submit their own original characters to fit into a post-apocalyptic universe. Tons of awesome submissions came in of original characters that fit into different kinds of post-apocalyptic universes, which kinda worked perfectly for a concept that I'd had for a story in the Multiverse Tales universe. Wait, Multiverse Tales Multiverse. Yeah. So today I'm going to redraw a whole bunch of my favorite characters that were submitted, and hopefully do them justice in writing them into a story of a whole bunch of different post-apocalyptic characters trying to survive the Apocalypse Dome. And of course I'll be showing off hopefully all the other awesome stuff that was submitted over the course of the video. But I think today's story is a fun one, so let's get right into it, shall we? Let's go! Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show! Fragmentum awoke laying in dirt and rubble. It wasn't an uncommon feeling for her, as she'd survived the last few years in the zombie-infested ruins of her world, with nothing but her magic to protect her. But she quickly noticed that something was different. She wasn't waking up in the cave she'd hid away in for the night. Around her were rugged brick walls, and her leg was chained to the ground by a steel shackle. There was no roof, and above she could see a purple-hued sky, along with hundreds of figures floating on various unusual vehicles and platforms in the far distance. They all seemed to be staring down at her, waiting. She panicked for a moment and looked around. Her heart rested for a quick beat when she saw that behind her was Scree, her elemental possum and best friend through the chaos of the last few years. She scooped him up and stood, trying to decide what to do next. She was about to call to the figures above when a massive holographic image appeared in the sky between her and them. It was a figure in tattered but somehow also luxurious golden robes and dress. She had a massive stack of hair and an eerie grin. "Overseers from across the multiverse! Are you sadistic little kings and queens ready for a show?" The crowd boomed excitedly, and the longer they cheered, the more Fragmentum felt like she was in serious trouble. "I am, of course, your glorious game master for the evening, Eloise Ludum, and today I have called upon those of you whose worlds have gone through an apocalyptic event, whether you're doing or not, but I think we all know the apocalypse likely came at your hands, yes?" Another cheer rang out. "Many of you submitted your champions from your worlds to compete for their lives in my latest creation, the Apocalypse Dome." The walls around Fragmentum suddenly slid down into the earth, revealing that she was in a massive coliseum that seemed as large as 30 football fields. There were hills of rubble, broken down buildings, and spilling over barrels of fluorescent and toxic-looking liquids. She could also see a few other chained-up people in the distance, but couldn't make out much about them. "I hope you're all listening, champions, because all you have to do to escape and be sent right back to your ruined little universes is find one of these." She held up a tennis ball-sized purple sphere with a button on it. "Press one of these and simply hold on to it for a minute, then after that, you'll be teleported right back home. But of course, the real challenge will be surviving long enough to do so. Now keep a sharp eye out, mind the toxic pools, and of course, watch out for the creeps. But most importantly, give us a glorious show!" She vanished from the sky as the crowd erupted again, the chain on Fragmentum's leg unshackled. She was still horrified and confused, but years of surviving zombies, liches, and necromancer attacks on her world had prepared her for anything. Her mind locked onto the objective: find an orb, press the button, get home. But just as she was ready to sprint off and start her hunt, she heard the sound of demonic clucking coming from behind her. She whipped around to see 3 mutated, human-sized turkey creatures leaping over a mound of rubble behind her. Between the 3 beasts, they had 17 eyes. At least 14 of them were all locked on her. "Well," Fragmentum muttered anxiously, "you must be what creeps are, I guess." The creatures sprinted towards her, and Fragmentum activated her elemental magic and was ready for battle. The vultures descended as Fragmentum shot an arc of purple flame from her hands, and her little ally, Scree, spat a small burst from its mouth to accompany hers. The flames struck the Greeps and seemed to knock one of them off course, but though their feathers singed, they barely seemed to notice the flames, and they continued their charge, with hunger in their eyes. One got close faster than the others, and Fragmentum struck it with her spiky staff. It flopped to the ground, but recovered quickly. Scree kept spitting fire at it while Fragmentum readied up for another swing. Heads up! Another of the so-called champions, clad in light armor and a hornet-like helmet, leapt onto the scene and swung a yellow baseball bat at another of the Greeps. Its head swung around, but as it fell, it thrust its muscly leg out and kicked the b-boy right in his bare stomach. Okay, that hurt. Oh man, oh that sucked. He flopped back to the ground. Fragmentum summoned another large charge of flame and channeled it into a beam at the third Greep. The cannon of fire shot the creature backwards into a boulder, but it wouldn't be down for long. Thanks for the hand, Fragmentum said quickly, reaching down to help him up. I'm Fragmentum. He took the hand. Hey, I'm Beast. It sounded a bit funny through his wheezing breaths. The Greeps were readying up to attack again, so the two started to run. Alright, Beast, do you have any idea what— No. It's Beast. You gotta extend the B. Get it? He said, gesturing at his yellow and black helmet. Fragmentum nodded, trying not to roll her eyes. Right, Beast. You got any idea what's going on here? Nothing more than what that lady said. Last thing I knew before waking up here, I was fighting off a man-eating Venus flytrap in the Mandrill territory. Fragmentum didn't really understand what he'd said, but before she could ask, she heard more clucking and looked back to see the three Greeps were gaining on them again. The two champions were getting close to a partially destroyed building that they could climb to hopefully get some safety from the creatures, but when they were only a few feet away, a fourth mutant bird sprinted into their path, blocking their way. They skidded to a halt and raised their weapons. Back to back, they prepared for an attack, but just before the battle could commence, Fragmentum noticed something. The fourth Greep had a rope strapped around it, and attached to that was one of the purple spheres. A way out, if she could live long enough to get it. The first of the Greeps lunged forward, when suddenly a jam-covered pitchfork flew down from above them, catching the creature's neck and pinning it into the dirt. A girl who looked like she'd just leapt out of some kind of baking disaster stood on the roof above them, and leaping down from next to her was a hulking boy with a lion head helmet. He fell 30 feet to the earth and it rumbled as he struck. He snatched up the pinned Greep and another by their necks. He slammed them into the earth, then hurled them 50 feet into the air with ease. They both struck some kind of invisible force field in the air above, then their limp bodies fell back towards the earth. The muscly boy snarled, then looked back at the Greep with the orb strapped to it. You're mine. Fragmentum's appreciation for the bulky boy's help vanished when she realized that this newcomer was going for the orb. But before any of them could use it, they at least had to stop the last two Greeps first. Beast, seemingly wanting to prove himself, lunged at one and jabbed the spike on his bat straight through its shoulder. The creature shrieked and pecked, luckily striking only his armor, though it did dent his metal plating. Oh, come on, you know how hard it is to find smooth armor nowadays? Beast kicked his spiked boot into the creature's stomach, tore his bat free, and whacked it in the head. The creature flopped to the ground, but before Beast could finish it off, the lion-helmeted boy casually stomped past, crushing the head of the creature beneath his heel. Man, Beast mumbled, I had that one. The boy snatched up the other girl's pitchfork off the ground and casually whipped it into the last Greep, spearing it straight through the chest, instantly killing it. Fragmentum was a bit nervous to confront him, but he grabbed the purple orb off the creature and was just about to press it. Hey, wait! Fragmentum instinctively yelled. Why do you get to use that thing? We all need to get home. He snarled, but the other girl clambered down before he could answer. You gotta let him use that thing. Ah! As she was climbing down, she slipped and fell. Barely reacting, the bulky boy held out an arm and caught her like she weighed nothing. He then sat her down gently. Oh, thanks. She tried to stand tall and confident, but didn't seem like a super sure of herself kind of person. Heracles here has to get home to help his friends, fast. Fragmentum and Beast both looked from the girl back to him. He nodded. We were just about to head into battle with my vile mother Hera. It's not a trial my friends can combat without me. Fragmentum was angry, but really she had no reason to rush home, other than wanting to live, of course. She glanced at Beast as if hoping for a response. He shrugged. What do you think, I'm gonna argue? The guy looks like he could break me in half with his pinky. Go for it, I say. Heracles nodded at them all, as if to thank them in his own quiet, brooding way. Then he pressed the button. Fragmentum considered snatching it from him. That Eloise lady had said that it took a minute to activate, so maybe whoever was holding it after a minute would be sent home. But she thought better of it. They'd found one orb pretty quickly, so maybe another wasn't far away. Soon a burst of light engulfed Heracles, and he was gone, leaving only the three of them. The crowd above cheered. "Well," the new girl said, glancing from the sound above them back to her new friends, "that's that for him, I guess. Now we just need to find a way out for the rest of us, huh? What do y'all say about teaming up? I can hold my own pretty good with my pitchfork." She twirled the weapon around in her hand and smacked herself in the head with it, but tried to pretend it didn't hurt. I meant to do that. I'm Susie, by the way, Susie Cook." They all did their introductions, and after explaining the worlds they all came from, it was clear that none of them were from the same worlds. It was a lot to process, but they didn't have time to sit and think. "Alright," Fragmentum said, petting Scree on her shoulder. "I guess we're all in this together, so we might as well go looking together. We can figure out what to do when we actually find another one of those orbs." Just as she said that, a purple orb shot through the air and rolled across the dirt a few meters away from them. They all looked in the direction it had come from to see a boy with white and black hair and a mask being hurled through the air and landing right at their feet. The boy didn't even seem to notice Fragmentum and her friends as he leapt up and twirled his spear, charging back towards his assailant. Sprinting up to meet him was a girl with purple-hued skin and prominent pink veins. She ran faster than any of them had ever seen someone move. The boy lunged towards her with his spear, but she batted it aside and thrust a fist into his stomach, sending him flying and crashing into a heap of rocks. He began picking himself up again. You can't have it, it's mine." She stomped towards the orb to pick it up. "Not on your life, I saw it first." But as she reached for it, the boy hurled his spear, directly hitting the orb and sending it rolling across the ground away from her. The purple girl snarled and grabbed the spear, turning to chuck it back at him. Seeing these two go at it like children made Fragmentum a bit embarrassed about how she'd considered stealing the sphere from Heracles. This had to stop. "Okay, enough!" She blasted a wave of fire between them, and that finally got their attention. The flame dissipated and they both looked back at the three other champions. "You need to stop this. We all need to stop this," Fragmentum said, marching into the space between them. "We all want to go home, but we'll all have a way easier time doing it if we work together." She held her hand out to take the boy's weapon from the purple-skinned girl. "Look, I don't know you all or where you're from, but we all have the same goal right now, right? If we can find 5 of these button things together, then all press them at the same time, we have a way better chance of surviving. It's in all our best interest to work together, right?" The boy seemed to grudgingly nod as he walked over. The girl was just staring at Fragmentum skeptically. "You know you have a possum on your shoulder, right?" "Exactly," Fragmentum said, "and like the old saying goes, you can always trust a possum, right?" The rest of the group all looked pretty confused. The purple-skinned girl tilted her head. "Yeah, that's not a saying where I come from." All the others nodded in agreement with her. "Oh, well, whatever. We still need to work together to get through this. Now are you in or not?" She shook her hand again, gesturing towards the spear. The new girl rolled her eyes and handed it over. Fragmentum tossed it gently to the boy. For the time being, they had a team. "Wow," another voice said. They all turned to see that there was a 6th girl, standing with the sphere that they'd been wrestling over in her hand, with her thumb firmly pressing the button. "That's really cute. You all have fun with your little party." Light engulfed her. Then she and the orb both vanished. The purple-skinned girl turned back to the group angrily. "Well, I guess now we've got even more work to do, huh?" She bumped Fragmentum's shoulder as she marched past to meet the rest of the champions. These 2 new figures introduced themselves as Alexis Martinez and Patch, and with that, the band was forged and they set off in search of 5 more orbs. Over the next 3 hours, the group searched, fighting off more packs of creeps. 2 more had had orbs strapped to them, and then they'd found another one in a pit where they'd had to fight off 3-headed snakes to get to it. They were all growing weary, and the acidic stench in the air was starting to burn their lungs, but they couldn't rest. They continued to search, starting to get a better understanding of their surroundings. The walls of the dome were about 50 feet high, and while they couldn't see it, after their encounter with Heracles, they figured that the entire sky was blocked by an invisible dome. Even if they'd found some way to fly out, they couldn't do it. Their only way to truly escape was to get all the orbs. After searching for all that time, they finally found their fourth, but it wasn't going to be easy to get to. One sat precariously on top of a stack of barrels about 20 feet high. Many of the barrels leaked a bright yellow liquid that created a small lake of bubbling toxicity around the stack. Patch spoke up first. "I could hit it with my spear and knock it to the other side." Martinez snarled. "And risk knocking it into the acid? Yeah, right." "You don't know that it's acid," he sneered. Susie stuck the rear tip of her pitchfork into the yellow, and it quickly sizzled and burned into nothingness. "Well, not to take sides on this one, but I think it's pretty safe to say that is acid." Martinez smirked, and Patch rolled his eyes. His eye. Beast leaned over to fragment him. "Any ideas?" She didn't have anything better than what Patch had suggested. She could use her elemental magic to try and knock the sphere from its perch, but there was no guarantee that it would land past the acid. They all stared at it, hoping something would come to them, when a voice suddenly spoke above them again. "Well, looks like the little band of friends is having a bit of trouble. What say we give them a hand, The crowd, that Fragmentum had been actively blocking from her mind, cheered eagerly. Nobody in the group thought for a second that anything helpful was headed their way. A bellowing, shrieking pierced all their ears, and the ground started to shake. The orb rolled around on top of the barrel, coming close to falling off, as another Greep stormed towards them from the distance. But the closer this one got, the clearer it was that it wasn't like the others. It was 20 feet tall, and looked even more ravenous than the previous ones. The group all readied up for a fight, but Patch and Martinez still stared at the precarious orb. Susie looked back at them. Y'all are gonna have to help us with this thing, you know. That button's no good if we're all dead." Patch ignored her and looked at Martinez. "Remember earlier when you threw me like 30 feet? Yeah, it's a pretty pleasant memory of mine. Why?" He snorted angrily. "Just do it again, okay?" It took a second for the idea to click, but finally Martinez snatched Patch up as the others all scattered around the Greep to keep it distracted. Martinez winded back her throw. "You're braver than I gave you credit for, One Eye." "Brave or stupid, let's find out." Martinez hurled him through the air like a rocket. He shot towards the sphere, but was going too high. He was going clean over it, so he thrust his spear down, striking the barrel, making the button bounce up, just enough for him to swing his spear back around and bat it through the air towards the group. Martinez leapt up and snatched it. Patch hit the earth just past the acid and rolled back up to his feet. The crowd went wild again. "And they have done it! The last orb has been found!" The whole group at once yelled, "Last?" The holographic face above them smiled. "What, you didn't think everyone could get out alive, did you?" 4 orbs for 5 people. Fragmentum tried not to let the thought distract her as they faced down the menacing monster before them. Fragmentum shot up pillars of fire around the Greep to distract it, as Beast circled around it. He got close to jab his bat into its leg, but the creature noticed. It snatched him in its foot and hurled him straight for the acid pool. Susie thrust her pitchfork up. "Heads up, bug boy!" He grabbed hold and she pulled, just barely keeping him from becoming soup. He let go of the pitchfork and stood up right at the edge of the acid pool. "Oof, that was close, thanks." She nodded. "Now let me show you that Heracles ain't the only one that can kill chickens with this thing." She twirled her pitchfork around and hurled it right at the bird with all her might. It pierced straight through the creature's left arm, and it let out a gargling cry. "Whoa!" Martinez yelled, joining the fight. "Nice throw, Susie." Yeah, thanks." Susie pretended that she hadn't been aiming for its head and just took the compliment. Martinez then sprinted towards the bird and leapt at it. The creature pecked straight into her stomach, but she winced through the pain. She grabbed hold and squeezed its mouth shut. While it was distracted, thrashing around trying to get Martinez off, Patch and Beast both ran at its legs together. Patch ejected a blade from his forearm gauntlet and stabbed the Beast in the leg, while Beast smashed his bat against its other knee. The creature's legs buckled and it collapsed, with Martinez still holding it. It was viciously thrashing and shaking. Fragmentum suddenly got an idea. "Martinez, can you hold its mouth open instead?" Martinez didn't reply, but grabbed both its jaws and pulled apart, while the others all leapt on it to try and hold it down. Fragmentum conjured another cannon of fire, with Scree 2 charging up an elemental blast on her shoulder. They both fired straight into the beast's mouth, sending flames bursting through all its innards. It thrashed another mighty shake and threw all the heroes off of it. It leapt up and tried to stumble away, but with bursts of purple flame spewing from within it, the beast finally flopped to the ground. A smell like burnt Thanksgiving dinner briefly overtook the acidic stench in the air as the creature breathed its final breath. The crowd went wild like no time before, but the group couldn't celebrate with them. Between the 5 of them, they only held what were apparently the last 4 orbs. They all looked at each other, not sure of what to do. But finally, Martinez pulled the orb from her pocket and tossed it to Fragmentum. "You all go." They were all surprised, especially Patch. "I can handle myself here. My world's not so great anyway. If I'm going to keep fighting, I might as well be helping you all out too. Don't make a big deal of it, okay?" There was a quiet "ooh" from the crowd above. But Patch then tossed his orb to Martinez. "What, you think you're the only one who can survive here on their own? I'll stay, you all go home." Before anyone else could argue, Beast tossed his sphere right into the acid. Martinez yelled, "What are you doing?" He stood more confident than any of them had seen him before. "If that one was mine, then I don't want it. If one of you stays, then I stay too." They all let his actions sink in, then all knew what they had to do. They tossed the final 3 orbs into the acid, and the crowd gasped and muttered. Eloise finally appeared again. "Oh, the boldness, the companionship! What a twist, what a beautiful gesture, what a show! What do you say, everyone? Cheer if you think we should let them die an honorable death together, as they've so chosen." There was a scattered, mild cheering. Eloise smiled. Well then, who says we reward their bravery and allow all of these young heroes to live?" This time the cheer was near deafening. The whole group finally breathed their first proper breath since entering the dome. "Well, there you have it, as decided by you beautiful, merciful overseers. Our apocalyptic heroes shall all live. Have nice lives, kids, while you can." She snapped her fingers and all of them started to be overwhelmed in light. They all took one last look at each other. They may never see each other again, but they'd always remember the friends that had come together to keep each other alive. With that, they all returned to whence they came, and Eloise prepared for her next tournament with a different creed of champion. There you have the tale of the Apocalypse Dome. Once again, I guess I've introduced more characters into Multiverse Tales that I haven't drawn yet. Sorry that I haven't done the Biomet Kayla episode yet, where I'm going to be drawing Astra, Tayran, Eulidas, and a few other characters. That is coming. I just felt a little bit off my game art-wise the last few weeks, but this was definitely a big boost. I really loved how all the art in this episode turned out. So I am going to be drawing my original characters that I haven't drawn yet, eventually. It is coming, still in active development. But anyway, the reason this episode obviously turned out so well is because I had such awesome art to work with. Thank you to everybody who submitted, and of course specific thank you to the people that I ended up picking. Squidicus Chicken Killer, Blake Nesbitt, Manuel Asnar, Mr. Goat, Gentle Dolphin, and He Who Defeats the Undefeated. All these were super fun to work with, and I hope you approve of how I ended up writing the characters based on the lore that you submitted. But now, of course, we got to announce the next month's PopCross Community redraw theme for June 2021. This one feels sort of random, but I am kind of excited about it. I want people to create their own anime Sona, or original anime character. Doesn't necessarily have to be you as an anime character. You can design and write some lore for this character to fit them into an existing anime universe, like My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Z, whatever you want. Or you can make it a wholly original universe that you've created for this character. I'll put instructions up on screen, and as always, you can submit to popcrossanimations@gmail.com or to the Characters for Pop channel in the Discord. And finally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to check out some of the other episodes like this. I've got a whole playlist of Community Redraw episodes, and a whole playlist of Multiverse Tales episodes that are similarly formatted to this one. Oh, and if post-apocalypse stories are your thing, I have an episode on if Greek demigods were in a post-apocalypse. I think it's actually one of my best episodes. But besides that, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been PopCross Studios, home of the Nerdy Start videos on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you again to everyone who submitted, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.